Okay, so the first translation type that I'm going to bring in is the wireframe IGES. So we go to File and Open. We're going to navigate over to our folder, and then we're going to select a translation file IGES. All right, so we have the previous. I'm going to go ahead and grab the fourth axis, and basically it's a block. Okay. And the issue isn't so much the block, is that we have all of these wireframe items to sort out, and what is actually the usable entities, what is what is not going to be as usable. So my first impulse is, if I have solid geometry, if I have the solid module, then I'm going to bypass the IGES and not deal with this. If I do have to deal with this, I'm going to go through and I'm going to create levels and select individual pieces of geometry and try to limit the amount of selection, limit the amount of items on the screen that I'm having to deal with. Just for reference, just kind of looking at this, the circle on the back is not really, may or may not be part of this. I was thinking if my rotary table has the 3-jaw chuck on it, I could machine a cylinder, just grab onto it with a 3-jaw chuck. Otherwise, we're going to have some kind of interface to hold onto this part, bolting it, clamping it, but still be able to get to the four sides. All right. So fourth axis is going to be, well, let's go ahead and move over to the next one. Let's look at the parasolid. So x_t, x_b. So when I open this, now I have solids, but I'm going to have to deal with this in terms of that solid geometry.
Jared?
Yes.
At my work, our fourth axis is on the other side, so how the parasolid comes in, the circle being to the...
You're going to rotate. You're going to translate that
okay, so
parasolid, because it's still going off of 0, 0, 0. All right. So if we, depending on how you set, and we're gonna get to that here in a minute, but depending on how you set, you're going to set the orientation the same as you're looking at it on the machine. You want everything visually in that same reference. And if it's not, we're gonna change it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so that kind of goes that way, my X, Y, and Z, and so we're still looking at this through the top plane. So parasolid comes in. We're not going to see much difference between this and the SolidWorks native file. All right, so again, I did this for from 2015 SolidWorks files, SLD, PRT, and so it comes in and it looks exactly the same. Now, the associativity. When we talk about Mastercam for SolidWorks, living inside of SolidWorks, anything that changes in that model is an immediate, I go back into the Mastercam tab, it sees the change, it updates. Here we have some strategies, and unfortunately I've never been patient enough. I have plenty of patience, but for some reason I don't have any patience at this level to take a changed part, have all of our operations in place, and pretty much replace this part or use those existing operations on a minor change. So when we talk about associativity between the solids, is it direct, or do you have to go through a secondary process? Living inside of SolidWorks, working with HSM, working with SolidCam, working with CamWorks, working with go down the list. All of those changes are recognized immediately. That associativity is direct. For Mastercam, for Gibbs, there is a secondary process that we'd have to go through, and to some extent, keeping those operations, translationing those operations is not as easy in that sense. All right, so if I did it enough, I would figure it out, and I would get over whining about it and just get it done. But the operation then is my 0, 0, 0 is set off on the block. So we're not dealing with tombstones. We're not dealing with vertical, horizontal machine at this point. Just that I'm going to somehow mount this part, whether it's I'm drilling 4 holes on the back and I'm going to mount it to a platter that mounts, or mount it to an intermediate fixture, an intermediate plate that mounts to the platter. Somehow, some way, I'm going to get this onto the to the face of the rotary table. And then touching this off, I have a couple of options. I can go back through my plane manager, and on the plane manager, we could go through and set up a 0, 0 on this corner, a 0, 0, 0 on this corner, a 0, 0, 0 on this corner, and switch through. Because this block is fairly simple, in that once it starts rotating, I'm not dealing with a lot of items. I'm not dealing with really needing those work coordinates. I should be able to take an indicator across this face, mount this to the rotary, take an indicator across the face, get this level within at least thou or two at the worst, probably within a couple of tenths if I adjust for the rotation, and then knowing what the size of the block is, touch off, subtract some amount, and that becomes my 0, 0. We're talking about probing though as well, because I need to have the tools and the tool length offsets be able to make adjust, because as soon as this is no longer a square and it goes to a rectangular part, sure, I can spin the rectangular part, but I've got to be able to raise up and lower down based on those orientations. So I really want to probe this and be able to have, back to that previous conversation, have the tool length offsets independent of this part. Dedicated location, a tool probe, and the spindle probe to define these geometries. All right, so keep in mind that you're making these decisions as you go along, and then what are the potential issues for it. All right, so again, if we put the rotary on the right side, I've now that you mentioned that, I think most of the rotaries that they're on the right side. Mainly the cables go up and over, and you're running them through. It's a matter of convenience, your A-axis. So good example of the rotation. So let's go ahead and rotate this around. I didn't even think about when I drew it last night. So X4 and rotate. We're going to rotate the solid enter on the keyboard, and we're going to rotate it 180 degrees. And this is going to be a move. It shows me the preview. Didn't ask me for a selection, so it went right around the origin. Let's go ahead and accept it. Okay, so easy enough. Whatever orientation it comes in, you should be able to manage it. One of the things I was thinking of that I didn't do, maybe on one of the next parts, as we accumulate a block of say 4 parts, is putting an angle so that we do have to create an additional plane manager for an orientation that is 45 or 30 degrees off of our axis. Those are going to come up. So keeping this first part kind of simple, we're 90 degrees to the planes, and just going through that initial setup and orientation. We'll see about additional geometry or a compound or a hole coming in at an angle later on. So on the machine type then, we don't have anything set up under our defaults, or do we? Okay, so I did grab one previously. If there is no 4th axis mill close to what you're using, then you're going to go into that manage, look down through the list, and find something close. All right. For the assignments in industry, you're going to have the post for your machine that works well, so that you're not playing guessing games with what it's going to do. You want something that's well established and been proven. All right, so let's go ahead and clear the colors, and we'll go through that position. All right, so machine type, we get off of the manage. We're going to pick the 4th axis mill. within that machine control, within that that post, that's going to set up and get us started on managing those rotations. Okay, so same basic process. With the 3-axis, we were mainly concerned with the ups and downs. Pretty much here we're going back to, and in the description I called this 2.5 axis to position. All right, so we're going to rotate this block to a certain position, and the advantage here is that we're going to get to 4 sides of our cube in one setup. All right, so if there is a critical positional axis, I should be able to hold those datums. I should be able to hold those tolerances within that rotation and come up with a more accurate part, not having to take it out of the vise, rotate it, do additional machining, take it out, and then just the additional setup and operations going through each of those sides. All right, so we have the machine and the control files and the tool settings, and I still got to go back through and find where I set these. All right, and we'll go ahead and select and get into the library 6061. Set our stock setup, and I want to go with corners, and we can go from any of the available corners, so 4x4x4, and that should do it. All right, so this is a small enough part. One thing that I might consider drawing in is if this is a 120 millimeter, if this is a 200 millimeter platter, I may go ahead and do a sketch out here on the end that represents that platter so I can have a visual reference for clearance. Closer we are into the chuck, into the platter, the more we have to be concerned with these movements that are getting into, and especially the larger you get up to a 300, whatever it is, 300 or 310, then clearance is definitely going to be an issue. All right, we're also going to want to start showing the tool holders. All right, but without setting up for the plane manager, setting up those additional work coordinates, let's take a look at that real quick. Within the plane manager, each of the new planes that we create can get its own work offset. So if I needed to have this be G55 and this corner going this way, G56, and I can set up each of those planes and assign it a work offset, so when it's picking that information, it's going to those new values. And then what I'm not sure of, or what I'd have to look at in the code when we post, is it doing the rotations correctly? Is it putting in the A values, generating the 90-degree rotations correctly? All right, so let's go ahead with the values. One of the I don't really want to do a facing operation on all these. If I had oversized stock, let's say that we prep this pretty well and it's on size. And again, if it was an issue, we would face, establish our top geometry. But really, I just want to go through and see what each of the pockets, each of those values can generate. And then I put the holes in the corner because I want to see what a pattern will do. Do I need to create 4 separate operations to manage that, or will the pattern manage the rotations to each of those corner slots? Okay, one thing to keep in mind is each of these planes. So let's go to the top. Each of these planes has a direction. All right, so we're on the top side of this plane, and we're in the positive direction. If I switch over to the bottom, and let's see, which one do I need to be in? If I switch over to the bottom, then I am coming now still in that positive direction. If I select the top and think that it's coming negative, to machine this side, I need to be in the bottom. What's the best way to trying to think of the best terms. In the orientation, to avoid confusion, if I'm looking at the bottom, I want to be in the bottom plane. If I'm looking at the top, I want to be in the top plane. If I'm looking at the front, I want to be in the front. If I'm looking at the back, I want to be in the back. That vector, the direction of your view, is going to be critical to the tool approach in most cases. So keep that in mind when you're making your selections. All right. So my first toolpath group. And this may be one of those instances where having the toolpath groups or having sub-toolpath groups of this is the first side, and then the second side, and the third side, and the fourth side. That may be a good way to go. The other choice that you have to make is, am I going to machine everything on this face, doing tool changes before I index? Or am I going to stay with the half-inch tool and do pocket, 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 pocket? Everywhere I can reach that half-inch tool before I do the tool change, which is going to be faster, the tool change or the index. Not always apparent. It depends on how much geometry you have and cycle times. Typically, I don't want to do very many tool changes. I would rather index this around with the tool change, get it all in one shot, go to the tool change, index to the next operation. I think as a general strategy, most machinists and programmers are going to go that route. There may be times where you would want to do everything on this face, but you're going to have a specific reason for it. Okay. One of the issues with the tool changes, especially if you are a big part on a big platter, is do you have the clearance? Do you have to go to a safe tool change position, get far enough off of the part so that the tool can drop down? The tools with the long reach, with the holders with the long gauge length, can they safely, on the side mounts, can the tool drop down and rotate? You're dropping down 4 inches. That means every time I do a tool change, I may have to write in a manual operation that says go to this safe tool change position before you do the tool change, right, before you pick up the next operation. Right, so those are all considerations that are going to play into this factor. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the mill toolpaths. The first from the top plane up in our direction. All right, so the Z direction, just like normal. First operation we're going to do just like we did any of the 2.5 axis, any of the 3 axis. So going to pick up the pocket. We'll go with the settings. I want to also have to decide if I am going to use the incrementals. Right? I really don't want to calculate everything in this in absolute. So we all kind of struggle with the incremental settings, but it's really going to save us a lot of trouble here being able to set those depths, which are now going to be heights, because our 0, 0 is at the center of the part. So there's some things that are kind of counterintuitive and things that are just just a pain. So let's see. Oh, and notice that it's not selecting. I always get to this point and why am I not selecting? Where is my geometry? Where is solid? I have to be in solids. Right? If we pick the wireframe, then the wireframe would operate in the wireframe. So the IGES file would have no issue. As soon as we go over to the solids, am I picking into the faces, into the 3D geometry, and then I'm over to loops and partials, edges, and the faces. All right, so now I see things start to select. I'm going to see some slightly different icons when I pick out the geometry. So let's do an edge on that one so it finds all the way around. Because of the solid geometry, it can also see other faces. So is it looking for this vertical face or something back in this geometry? No, it made the correct selection, so I don't have to pick anything different there. All right, and in that same group, I want a second chain, and this time I'm just going to grab the face. So that one highlighted as the loop or the edge, and this one highlights as the face. They should do the exact same thing. All right, so we're set for pocket. Now in the chain geometry, it's showing 1. So that's a concern because I thought I picked 2. So it either did not like my face. Nope, it has chain 1, loop 1, or loop and face. Right, so I can always do that quick check, and I'm not sure. Now's a good time to check. All right, we're going to go into library tools, go to the filters, select our end mill, pick out, I think I made those 250 corners, so a little bit tight, but we'll pick up our 1/2 inch end mill. Going into aluminum, and we know that this is unsupported. The other question that I didn't address is this probably isn't long enough to put a tailstock on. 4 inches, having that extra support, they're not going to really gain in rigidity, and it's another thing in the setup, and would also need to have the center drilled hole at the center of the part for the center to go in to support. All right, so the overhang, the 4 inches of overhang, we're going to have some additional vibration. We're going to have some additional harmonics to contend with. So until it gets out to the machine, and we're back to that observe and react thing. Until it gets out to the machine, I'm taking my best guess on speeds and feeds. And the more of these parts that we run, the more of these that we do, and we go from close to the table to further extensions, then we're going to be able to kind of make some of these determinations. What is a better? Do I go a little less RPM, a little less feed rate to avoid some of that vibration and chatter, or is it okay and we just go with our normal speeds and feeds? So let's start off with a mid-range for the 1/2 inch carbide. Plunge rates, that one always makes me a little bit nervous. We'll rapid retract, and so this will be the top face. Pockets. And should have just done my caps lock. All right, I would like to be able to see the holder in the verify. So I haven't looked into the designations, but pretty much if we go through and pick, those are some pretty long gauge lengths. That's a really long gauge length, probably an ER 16 or 20. Find something a little bit closer. No, too close. All right, so let's go somewhere in between, and we'll select that as our holder. All right, if I know what those designations, if I find something close to the measurements, we'll go with it. I'm going to go ahead and apply those since I'm accumulating check marks. And the cut parameters, stock to leave on the walls. Let's leave 5 thousandths and nothing on the floor. Roughing, parallel spiral, entry motion can stay with the helix. Those should be good for that size pocket, at least not too bad. The 3-degree angle, again with the vibration, that should be okay. I would think that up to about 10 degrees, we shouldn't be injecting too much vibration into that overhang. All right, so go ahead and finish. Compensation will be on the wear, and let's see. I think I made those 1/4 inch deep, so we'll see if it goes all the way through. Start it, pass at close vicinity, and no, it doesn't need to do a full retract. And stay engaged in the pocket for the finish. A little on the large side, so let's go to some shallower values and transfer those over. Depth cuts, we'll come back and look at those. There's no breakthrough, linking parameters, and then we get into the fun stuff. All right, so incremental value for a retract. Well, let's make sure that it picks up a value. If I switch that over to absolute, well, it didn't exactly change. Feed plane at 0.2. Now, did that pick up the stock? Let's go ahead and give it the 1 inch. I want to see what the values are. So top of stock, 2 inches, which makes sense. If feed plane is 2.2 above that, incremental, and 1 inch above that, incremental, then we're okay. If it's off of any other geometry, we're going to see some rapids going through the part. Depth in on incremental is picking that face. Or because we did select it as the chain, I didn't check it, but it should have been in the absolute for the values. All right, now we're going to see what we get. Reference points, tool change position or home position, filters, and then we get to one that we're going to have to check consistently. All right, so the plain WCS, right now everything's in the top. We're okay. So more out of habit, making it part of your workflow and habit, as soon as you're in that 4th axis world, I want to come down and look at the planes and just do a reality check. Yes, I'm in the top plane. Coolant, are we running coolant? Flood is on, we're okay. Let's go ahead and see what we get for a toolpath. So, goes in, does the finish pass, that all looks okay. Alright, so the other thing of interest then would be, how do I want these holes to intersect? Because anytime that you're drilling through intersections, you're going to have additional chatter. You're going to have you're definitely going to have burrs pushing into the other chambers or to the other axis. All right, so we're only going about halfway through. So, well, we'll think through. I can always reorganize these later if I need to do another face first. All right, so we're going with the drill operation. Let's go with the entities. And did it make the selection? No, not automatic. Now this one isn't giving me the solids. Uh-oh. I may have select art to match. No, we're not picking that up. I was thinking that that was part of the solids. So in that case, it may not be a bad idea to bring in the IGES on a separate so that we have all that wireframe information. Now let's see if we can go back to the pick. So on the geometry, nope, that's not where I want it. Let's see, undo. I'm going to have to pick that one out later. Okay, so it's on the selection. I think I went down to entities first. All right, so making sure. Let's see, go to Alt-1. So it's showing it to me, but it's not letting me pick up that center point.
Just hold it, go back to like where right there. So you're on the corner now. You can move it just to the right. There you go. See
When that highlights?
Yeah.
I'm getting 3 now. Okay, gotcha. All right, thank you. Yeah, haven't worked too much on the solids, so that one's new and different. All right, so subprograms, last sorting. Well, not much there to sort. I do know that the first one, that point is going to be there. So point 1 gets deleted. Okay. And escape. So point 2, point 3. Okay. All right, so back into the parameters, pick up the tool, like library tool. I think those were 1/2 inch, if not they are now. Reamer. That's interesting. Figure out where I'm at and what I'm doing here. All right, so let's go through, pick up the 1/2-inch jobber length drill, make the select. All right, so in the in the aluminum, we'll want to be about 200, and so that number's a starting point. Feet per tooth, about 4. Let's see what 5. Yeah, let's stay with the 4. We'll round it to 12. And top drill. Holder. Actually, that one doesn't look too bad, at least for reference. Cut parameters, we're going to go back to the peck drill, 100 thousandths peck. I'll leave it. And then 100 thousandths for retract, top of stock. Now, that one absolute at 0, that one concerns me. So since we were at 2 inches on the previous, let's just double check, let it select. All right, so top of stock absolute 2 inches, and then depth. Well, we picked the top center point, so I'm going to have to come up with a depth. So in this case, if I were to tell it absolute, I would want to give it something like 0, or because that would take it to center line, that would be my reference point. The through hole is 3/4 of an inch, so if I'm sitting here with my print in front of me, which I'm not, but the hole that it's intersecting is going to be 3/4 of an inch, so I would need to be 3/8 plus the tip. All right, so let's try the absolute, and we'll put it at 0.375 above, and then tip comp will be on. And
0. Sorry, so 0 in that would be the center of the part.
Center is the top plane going through the middle of the part, yes. This is where working above center line, you're getting that convenience on the setup, not having to set up all of those work offsets, but you're having to manage and see those values that in the 2.5 axis world and the 3 axis world, we're typically touching off on the top of the part and going negative. So here we're going to have some positive values to contend with. And then planes, we're still in the top, so we're okay. All right, so since I messed around with that one, I'm going to retract, and there I'm just barely breaking through to the center. All right, so the issue with the 3/4 inch drill, it's going to be a long drill, so silver and dimming or longer, and it's going to have to intersect, and where those holes come through, that's going to be a place for it to load, unload, create some chatter. All right, and then let's go ahead with the spot. Okay, so one more drill operation. I want to go ahead and see if the pattern works. If the pattern will go through the rotation, then great. If not, then I'm going to set up for that location on each of the faces. So drill. Let's see if we can do that again. Oh, yeah, now I can see it. Go ahead and accept. Tool holder in this case is, the tool is going to be the 1/4 inch. And I've already slipped into 2.5 axis programming mode because I've picked up all of my tooling. All right, so we're going to have to do some rearranging to keep all of the 1/2 inch tools in order, all of the tools together. Okay, so 200 on the surface feet, and we'll stay at about, well, that one went down to 2, so let's go for maybe a little aggressive. Okay. put something like that in there. All right, holder, again, standard drill, went to the default, okay. Cut parameters, still in PEC, 100 thousandths, linking parameters, 200, or sorry, 2 inches. Depth in this case, well, let's see what we can pick. All right, so 1.75. And if I switch that over to incremental, from the top of stock, minus 0.25. So whichever way you want to look at it. Tip comp. Yeah, we'll go ahead and let the tip comp. I'm not so concerned with the breakthrough, but I do want it to be a 1/4 inch hole when we're done, and that's going to stay in the top. All right. All right, so notice all of our selections for geometry have the little cylinder with the S, denoting that it was attached to the solid. And say rotate for position. Let's go ahead and pull these up. Let's go ahead with the toggling the display off. I want just the PEC drill. And let's see, I'm looking for. Okay, so the transform operation parameters, I was thinking of pattern, but too many getting jumbled up. So we're going to rotate. We're going to rotate the PEC drill. Let's see, create new operations. Well, don't necessarily need new operations in geometry. We'll see what it generates. Copy the source operation. Work offset numbering is off, so it should pick up the same. Tool plane or coordinate. Include the origin. So at this point, if I save the planes, it's going to create the new. All right, so let's take a look at rotate. And I haven't done this before, so anybody's guess is what we're going to get unless you've done this. All right, so angle between, we're going to have 3 instances, 90 degrees between, and the source operations tool plane. All right, so I have one floating out there, I have one floating out there, and I have one floating out there. So obviously, did not make a good selection on the rotation plane. And actually, I was thinking more along the lines of an axis, but that was rotating within that plane. Okay. So I don't think that's giving me what I want. I was looking to have it rotate about the x-axis to each of the other positions and pick up that location. So I either did something wrong or did not make the correct selections. Coordinate, rotate. Well, if we do that as a center point of rotation. Okay, so it picked up 0, 0, 0. Nope, still pretty much staying in that plane, so I don't think I'm going to get the rotation that I'm looking at. All right, well, I'll have to look into that one a little bit more. And see if I'm not following the logic.
I'm trying to get it to draw all 4 of those similar holes.
I really wanted to do the pattern because I'm thinking, and maybe I'm building too much of the live tooling, the lathe live tooling. manages that rotation within those operations, within that pattern. So I'm not seeing either not remembering it correctly or not picking up that that same type of operation. So we'll come back to that one. All right, so I'm going into this next operation. So let's go ahead and switch the planes. I'm going to switch it over to the front. All right, and what I expect to see when I hit Alt-1, it took me back to the same WCS. Nope, I'm still in the same WCS. Graphics view. Oh, I switched planes, but I didn't grab. Okay, we just did those. Okay, so construction, and so let's set all of those equal. There we go. That was what I was wanting. All right, so when I hit Alt-1, that is what I would expect to see as my geometry. So what we're going to see is when we go to the well, what would be the back side is that if I stayed in this top, I would still be looking at this face. And so when I'm making those selections, going to the current, going to the in this case Alt-1, that puts me normal to that operation, and we can go ahead with it. All right, so I want another pocket, so let's go ahead and copy. And we'll paste the pocket. And again, it said that we wanted to gather up all of the half-inch tools. So I'm going to go ahead with a reorder while I'm thinking about it. And we'll place the insert arrow just below that, kind of act as a placeholder when I come back to those. Let's see, we need to expand out, go into the parameters, back into the chain geometry. I can delete that chain. Add a new chain. All right, we're back into the solids. It's picking the loop. We haven't told her to face. Now, in this case, the face would probably not be our best selection because it would see the hole as a potential island. Make the selection. It grabs the vertical. So in this case, I do want the other face, right? Because the other time it was normal to the top plane. Well, it probably saw that face normal to the top plane and said, "Oh, that must be it." Well, we're picking up the operation. Even though the WCS is still showing as top, the T-plane is still as top, our plane manager, we switched over to the front. All right, so in those operations, we'll go ahead and select. Tool should be good. If the speeds and feeds are current, then tool holder, stock to leave, roughing, finishing, linking. All right, so depth on the link. Well, we selected that bottom again, but we'll go ahead and make sure. And then we come down to the planes, and these are all top. All right, so I'm going to switch from top for the work coordinate system. I'm going to switch from top to front on the tool plane. Switch from top to front on the construction plane. Apply it and regenerate. All right, since that one was not being shown, that one's not shown. So what I'm looking for, what I'm checking for, is that my rapids are in the correct orientation, that they're doing what they're supposed to do. All right, so we had the quarter-inch tool. Let's go ahead and finish out the pockets, since we're going through, and then if we get long on time, we'll have most of the operations established. All right, so back into the plane manager. And this is where we'll see, if I went back into the top, I would be making the approach from over here. I want to be in the bottom. All right, so notice that my coordinate system. Z is pointing this way. My Z positive is pointing towards the face. That is the desired result. So let's go ahead and Control V one more time. It adds another pocket. And technically that one's probably more of a slot, but okay. Double click and we'll jump out. All right, so it kept. Since I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and establish those in the setting. All right, and we'll make sure that those get applied. Toolpath type can go over to slot mill, right? Because it's going to find the geometry. We're back into the to the chain and delete. Add chain, that would help. Select the loop. It found the correct geometry. Still kind of in that same orientation back to our default top. And select. Tool and holder should be okay. Cut parameters. We're going to go ahead with the where again. Entry exit at 180. Compensation left. That should all be defined. We'll leave the 5 thousandths on the wall. No. Let's see, because this went right into compensation, we're going to go ahead and get rid of that. Ramp entry. Well, all right, we'll leave, since I'm bouncing around here, we'll leave that. The rough finish, plunge angle going in, step over 50%, 1. And if I made that slot 1/2 inch, then chances are that tool isn't gonna get all the way in anyway. Cuts, no. Breakthrough, no breakthrough. So 1/4 inch, feed plane, incremental, retract 1/4 inch, feed plane and 100 thousandths top of stock. We're back to the 2 inches. And then the depth should be what I selected. So let's not set the depth this time. We'll come back to it if we need to. Back into the planes, double check, regenerate the operation. All right, so slot milling. This is probably a 1/2 inch tool going into a 1/2 inch wide slot. Doesn't have enough room for step over. So that being the case, let's bring it back down. I'm going to switch tools over to, let's see, what else can we use? Let's go with a 1/4 inch. And select. Oh, so this is the bottom.
Why not like a 3/8 or something like that?
Well,
depending on what you have, but is there?
If I need something smaller elsewhere, I'm probably going to need something smaller elsewhere. If I know for sure, then yeah.
Plan on using the 1/4 inch somewhere else. So.
Yeah. It may come back to that these holes are drawn as flat bottoms. I put a drill point in there and it goes to inspection and comes back, no, those have to be flat bottoms. I've got a 1/4 inch tool lined up for it. My story, and I'm sticking to it. There's just, part of it is going over to the tool crib and what do I have the most of. If I have more 3/8, then yeah, definitely I'm gonna go pick the 3/8. Okay, so those should all be good. Rough finish. Number of finishing passes 1. Oh, and I even wanted to leave 50 thousandths. No, let's leave the 10 on the finish. All right, see if that guy gets in there. All right. So what I'm looking for, and this is where we need to have the surfaces on. So let's switch it over to wireframe. And you can see how this is going to get kind of complicated if we stayed just with the IGES file. But the biggest part of this is looking through all of those lines and arcs and circles and being able to decipher what's going on. It's a lot of information. Anything you can do to make it simpler is going to help you out. All right, so it's taking the ramp in, does the finish passes, that's the desired result. All right, so we had the 1/4-inch tool. So let's check that one. That was the 1/2-inch drill. Nope, I guess I didn't know I did have the 1/4-inch on, same as the PEC.
Number 4.
Okay, so let's go ahead and bring that one down. All right, so I'm going to keep my counting straight. Control C. Control V. All right, want to go back into the parameters, double click. Double check the tool, speeds and feeds are all okay, holder, showing whatever 3-inch length of cut, PEC. And then we get into the depth. So the depth, this is going to intersect. So let's see what, from an incremental, minus 2.375 from the stock. Do I want to be, let's see, 2 3/4? No, that doesn't quite line up. But what happened is that we're on the tool, or I'm sorry, the plane is still on the top. The tool is reading from the top, and that would be 2 inches to center line plus an additional, or minus an additional 375. All right, so let's go ahead and correct for the planes first. And now this one was on the bottom. And we'll make sure that gets applied. Now, with the plane set, let's see if we can repick that. And went to a positive 2.375. That's not making me feel any better. So let's go 0.375 and see what the end result is. All right, so that needs to be regenerated.
Did you select the chain pad out there?
Oh, that was probably, no I didn't, thank you. That was probably where it was still coming in from the corner for the depth. Yep, no point to be seen. All right, delete on the keyboard. We're going to add the point. Go ahead and select. And still not quite seen. Oh, regenerate. There, it's just barely breaking through. All right, so depending on what I told it on the other parameters, tip comp, well, let's go ahead and break through a little bit more on tip comp. Go ahead with it.
Regenerating.
All right, so we went through that one, missed those. Okay. So I'm starting to get ahead of my geometry. So we're gonna have to figure out the orders here. I'm probably gonna bypass the chamfer for now, and we'll just get the pockets in, and then decide which plane we want to drill from. Okay, so back into the pocket. We're going to be able to get into those. So Control C, Control V. Edit the geometry first this time. Alright, so make sure that we're clearing those out. That one's good. And we'll keep those as separate. Okay, cut parameters, roughing, entry, linking, and since I just lost my frame of reference, oh, it's not going to let me rotate while I'm in the part. Let's see, the other one was the bottom, so this one should be the back. So in that respect, it is probably going to be better to go ahead with all of the operations just as if this was a 2.5 axis, and then sort for the common tools after we've gone to the complete and make sure that the index is happening correctly. And that's going to do two things: is make sure, oh, I didn't switch over to the bottom, so I guess that isn't as critical anyway. That may have been where I lost my frame of reference though. All right, so let's go ahead and paste. What's that?
So because you're gonna machine through that centerpiece to go to the deeper recess, would you let that first pass run all of that? Or would you do the first piece first and then cut just what's left on the outer lip? Cut the small diameter and then go back and cut the larger diameter? You're not, then you just have to go around. You would have to cut
Right, yeah, kind of the same thing as the
twice.
facing this part, yeah. Yeah, probably. You know, first pass through is what you see when you see it. So that's the way I saw it. And yeah, we could switch that over to a contour, pull that operation out, and machine through the center first. Sure. So let's before we take that operation out, let's go back into the geometry. Add chain, switch it over, make sure it's got the right face. Okay, and then regenerate the operation. Oh, that was the one I just added. So I kind of did the same thing. So let's see. Let's turn that one off. So my strategy here is I'm not sure. So I'm going to ghost the first pocket. And what that'll do is the little ghost says this is not going to post. It's not going to put it out into the code. All right, so what that can do is if we've been all the way around the part, so we're pretty much through with the 1/2" tool, and I kind of jumped around, you know, kind of unintentionally illustrating the point that, you know, I was kind of concerned about being too tied up with the 2.5 axis operation, but I'm running the risk now of missing an operation somewhere, right? Because we're at that level of complexity that it's a concern. We go back in, set it up for the contour. All right, this is still going to be the 1/2" tool. Come on, let me have it. There we go. Looks good on the selection. Tool picks up the 1/2" end mill. Oh, well, we're running faster than that. And rapid, and then this was the back. Call it a step 1. Okay, holders. Make sure that we're in where, no material, contour types, no depth cuts, just a spot face. Lead in, lead out, still fairly large numbers. Over breakthrough, no multi-passes, no tabs, linking parameters. So top of stock is at 2 inches. Finds the retract and the clearance. Go to depth. Oh, still forced to have it. Okay, so minus 1.5, that tells me that my planes aren't selected correctly. We picked up from the bottom, which was my current plane. I didn't rotate over to the back. So now I'm setting to back. So you can pretty much count on you get in a hurry, you stop kind of thinking about the process. We're gonna encounter these things.
Keep your eyes open for the clues.
Yeah. Well, and that's just it. Nobody is going to catch everything on the first pass through. You're relying on going through each of these tabs. And even if all you're doing is looking at it, now depth cuts, breakthrough, multipass, we know that we're not including those at this point. But when I get to each of these, it is that mental checklist of did I account for, did I get it into the mix? And so regenerate, let's see where it goes. Oh, missed my check mark. And did I still, oh, I went to the inside, so I still got the wrong geometry. No, that one's that. And it's just not being shown. Now it's over there inside of the part. All right, so let's go back to that fun little wireframe thing. And what I didn't check for, everything else was fine, but my selection, I'm on the outside of the chain.
Oh, your direction.
So we need to
Change side.
yep, change side. All right, so got so wrapped up in the fourth axis, I stopped looking at my direction and stopped looking at my arrow. Now the other side of this just became a conventional cut when I changed side, right? Because we're doing this now. So let's, instead of changing the side, let's reverse the direction. All right, so you have those options. It's that observation of that's what you're going to get. I still think that that's easier than going back into the parameters and having to decide, is it left or right? You know, seeing that arrow, that visual, that makes sense. This, I don't feel comfortable knowing what it's doing. So this is one that I almost always completely ignore, except to look at it and go, yeah, climb cut is typically left compensation. I want to be left compensation. But I don't want to get in a situation where that arrow is pointing one way and I've overridden it to go the other way and miss something. All right, so you got the operation there, regenerate, back into the solid because at least I can see that. And we've got into the to the geometry. All right, so that should be all of my half-inch tools, regardless, or minus the one that I'm not sure about. So since we're getting a little bit here, let's go back to the isometric. Working without a net, so at some point I probably should save this. Feeling really brave tonight. Save often, save oftener. It always goes quicker the second time around. We just don't like second times around. All right, so let's go ahead with the toolpath and set up for the verify. All right, so what I'm looking for in the verify, maybe not even so much for the pec drills, just looking for that order of operations and setting the direction. Now, I'm not sure which verify it was, but one would rotate the part and the other one rotates the tool. So I think there's probably a setting somewhere. But for doing the check, so half-inch tool. So in that case, I wouldn't really want to do 180 degree. And I picked up the drill, so, oh, okay. Well, slot on the other side, then I can do the 180 degree. So let's see, did I actually reverse the slot in the drill, or? Yep, did the slot afterwards. Oh, that was nice. Threw it up top. And still threw it up top. Either that or I just rearranged everything because I had more than one item selected. Yep, I wasn't paying attention. All right, so let's go back through and double check since I had too much. All right, let's get to the fit. All right, so contour was this one. No, I got them. I grabbed everything that was checked, so be careful because if you're in the Toolpath group, in that case I didn't have everything selected, but I had almost. So when I moved, I didn't catch it. I rearranged everything. So contour is one of the last. So pocket 1. See, it shows me the geometry. All right, so I'm okay with that being the first. And that being the second. And then that one and then back to the contour. And then we'll sort out the pectorals in a minute. Okay, so the other thing that we could do is, since that operation looks like it's going to go away, we'll put it at the very bottom. Right, I don't really want to delete it until I'm sure. All right, so let's see, back into the plane manager. Let's go to the top, set everything equal. Right, because I'm going to pick up those rotations. Let's see. So we've been through all of the 1/2-inch tool. Pectoral went to the 1/2-inch drill, or yeah, pectoral 1/2-inch. That should have been the only 1/2-inch tool. Said that this is 3/4, so I'll probably take the 1/2-inch tool and go through and open it up so it's not as much load. All right, a 3/4-inch tool pecking directly is going to generate a lot of tool pressure if there's not a pilot drill. All right, so double check and make sure that that's the only one. There we go. Keep jumping on the wrong one. Control C. Okay, and then this is the top. That should be the front. Now let's go ahead and delete. Nope. And add back in the points. Okay, so if all of the other operations are okay, drill, holder was alright, cut parameters, 100 thousandths, linking parameters, and then the, let's see, did that one have, that one was already from the top, so -2 inches. Alright, if I were to pick it on the incremental, we put it on the other side, that incremental move from that location, that selection, would probably be, if this was the 1/2-inch, would then be -3.5, I think. Plus whatever was missing off the other side. Alright, so we're just telling it to go all the way through it. Now -4 is 2 inches beyond and 2 inches beyond. No? Incremental. We're still going too deep because from the top of the stock, And now we know where we get confused on incremental. From the top of the stock through the part, 4 inches. Okay, I'm buying that. Absolute would be -2 inches, incremental -4 inches. Okay. Whenever you get, and you're going to get confused, work through the logic, make sure that you understand what you're telling it to do. And then this becomes a front.
Why is that? I'm getting confused on the. Why is that one the front all of a sudden isn't?
Let's see, where is this pocket geometry? Okay, so if I go back to that pocket, that is my pocket geometry. All right, so this was the top. I'm rotating 90 degrees. That becomes the front. 90 degrees is the bottom. It's hard to keep that organized. So yeah, I understand completely.
I was thinking the front was that blank square that you're
So-
highlighting right now.
Oh, okay, so one of the things that I started off doing and I didn't stay consistent at was going back into the plane manager and saying change me to the front. All right, because that helps with that recognition, which way the direction, which way those things are occurring. Now, at some point, we hope we can manage it, but there's just too much going on. All right, so the 1/2 inch drill got in there. We missed peck drill. How are we doing? We're getting a little long. All right, so regenerate. Make sure that we're okay. All right, so that comes a little bit further out than I would want. All right, so that whole incremental 4 inches from that face being a 1/2 inch deep, and that one probably being a 1/2 inch deep. The incremental really didn't need to be 4 inches. All right, we didn't make a selection. So let's go back to the linking parameters, set the depth. And turns out that, yeah, we were quite a bit deep, 810. All right, so there's going to be lots of little checks along the way to make this work. All right, I'm going to pause here for a second. All right, so gathering my thoughts, we have the 3 operations left. The slot on this side is pretty much good. We could say 4 with the chamfer. We'll see how far we get with those. So let's go ahead and regenerate. Peck drill looks like it just barely breaks through on the backside. That's good. I'm going to hide that one. Let's see, anything else that was, we had the 2 with the 1/2 inch drill, so those are crossed off the list. And more complicated these parts get, chances are I'm going to make this tool list and try and determine. On the one side, I'm not really concerned about the tool change order. I don't want to do a lot of front to back at this point with 4 tools. It's not really that big of a deal. All right, so next in the list, we're at the 1/4 inch drill. It did the corner, so I need to check the geometry, make sure I'm picking up which side it was on. So top. Since we went back to the front. Now the other thing is looking at the wind unwind, which we're going to have to take into consideration, but not right now. It just popped into my head, so I want to mention it in case I get ahead of myself and forget here. All right, so let's bring the arrow down. We're going to copy, go ahead and paste. Set up for the parameters back in the point geometry. Get rid of that one. And picking up, actually it's not picking up anything again. Now that's going to make it mad, but let's see, it's clear the colors. All right, that's looking a little better. I'm not sure if it was selecting and I couldn't see it, or 0 points defined, add point. All right, And make sure you zoom up if you can't see it. Go ahead and select OK. Back into the parameters. We knew that that one was a front. I'm going to speed this up a little bit and not worry too much about the rest of the operations. Now on this end, the work coordinate and the tool plane are probably the critical ones. The construction plane we're not drawing, but I want them to be consistent. All right, so let's regenerate. And show would help. There we go. All right, so Control V. This one's going to be on the bottom.
The depth carried over because of the copy, right?
Depends on if I did incremental. We're going to find out here pretty quick. So incremental from the top, minus 0.25. But yeah, that's always a good check. And then, worst case is we're going to be running in Verify, and Verify pixels are cheap. And we're going to see this whole side blown out because the tool holder went through and took out a lot of extra material. So another advantage of we're checking clearances, we're looking for those collisions. Having the tool holders in this case is pretty much a must. Even if it's not the exact correct tool holder, it has enough that if it's going to collide, if there's not enough protrusion from the nose of the tool holder to the tip of the tool, it's going to show up. And then you can make a conscious decision, is that going to be okay, or do I really need to check something there? All right, so this was going back to the bottom, I hope. If I rotated correctly, it went through. If not, we'll reorder it. All right, so back to the toolpath. Add the point. Make the selection, OK, and regenerate. Make sure to show it, and that one looks OK. One more. And this one was the bottom, top. No, the back. Had three choices, had it, and I missed them all. All right, so back to the geometry. Make sure to delete. Add the point. There we go. All right, so planes. I just did that again. All right, so top, bottom, back. So if I had the working print in front of me, which I think I'm going to do for you guys, is I'll go back into SolidWorks. I will make a working print so you can either have it in front of you or have it for reference, and we'll label each of the views top, bottom, back as a reference. Because if I'm getting confused, I can't expect you not to. All right, go ahead and display that one. All right, so that gives us the 4. All right, so going through the checklist on the top, let's go back in the plane manager, keep that reference. Okay. Okay, so back into the top, we've hit all of those. We've hit everything except for the drilled and tapped holes. Everything on the bottom, let's get back to fit. And except for the chamfer on the bottom, we're good. All right, so the next operation is going to be just the last two. Let's see, so top, we're going over to the front. Okay, so slot milling. And I'm not sure where I want that order, so we're just going to go ahead with the new drill. Yeah, that's tricky on that selection. Too easy to miss going to the quadrant. All right, so 201 for a quarter 20. You probably wouldn't have picked that up unless you did the tool size or did a measure. So that's another reason I need to give you a drawing. Let's go a little bit less aggressive on that one. What did we say? Front. All right, holder. Stay with. Peck is a little aggressive for that one. We're about half diameter. All right, so if I can see the bottom of the hole, I can get to it. Inches, go to the selection. All right, see what we get. Well, it went somewhere, it just didn't go to my selection. All right, so let's double check. Should have double checked those zeros on that one, but let's go ahead and regenerate. Oh, yeah, the drill and tap, I made that a little bit deeper. So let's go 7.5, and then we'll go not quite as deep on the tap. All right, so the peck drill can be converted over to the tap pretty easy. So Control C, Control V. Should already have the holes selected at that point, so that helps out a little bit. Let's go ahead and hide that one. Go into the parameters. We're going to pick up a new tool. Go back into the filters. We can turn off the drill. Go into the tap, find nothing. Oh,
Right-handed.
yeah, that's right, the right-handed tap. So
You're making this complicated.
getting a little tired there. All right, so front tap. Based on the tool selection, let's see, we're at 1/4 20, so spindle speed, we'll take the 20, add a 0 onto it, so basically multiply by 10, and then double it will give me 400. All right, that's not a crazy amount, but it's a manageable amount. Can I run faster? Sure. Do I want to? No. Feed rate is going to be calculated by the spindle RPM. If we change the feed rate, they should go back and forth. But basically, if I'd stayed at the 200 RPM, my feed rate would have been 10. At 400 RPM, my feed rate's 20. So they, stay in proportion, stay at that ratio. Cut parameters. Let's see. Do we have a default tool holder? This one probably needs to be one of the longer, skinnier ones. I know I saw that one work. Cut parameters goes over to tap. If I don't change it to tap, it should warn me that it is not the correct tool for the operation that I've selected. Not going to add any tool comp, and my fronts are all okay. Regenerate the operation. Probably would like to have a little bit more on the retract, but that's manageable. All right, so let's go through the count: top, front, bottom, back. And let's see how we're doing. We're getting a little long, so let's try and finish this up. Mill toolpath contour. I'm going to select the bottom edge, and the tool is going to be a chamfer mill. And we'll go with the 1/2 inch. I don't think I made it that big, but we'll go ahead and pull that up. holder, same thing. We want something a little on the long extension side. Cut parameters is set for where. We're going to be in a chamfer. The width at the tip, well, we're going to stay with the 100,000ths, and the offset, though, probably not that much. We're getting a little close to the bottom of that floor, so we're going to pull that one up a little bit. Lead in, lead out, 0.1s, 90s. That's not too bad. We're going to stay with the selections. Those look good. And then the plane, we said we were on the back. And actually, one of these we should put on a different plane so you can see it run the weird looking line that says it's not. Okay, so I'm not sure about the depth and the offset. That looks a little bit big for the 1/2" tool, but kind of want to wrap this up with the organizing. So let's go ahead and show everything. By the time you look at all of those toolpaths, let's see, plane manager still in the top, so that's okay. Let's go back to the isometric view. By the time you put in all of the toolpaths and then go to wireframe to see it, that's quite a bit of information. All right, so we're going to expand out. Basically what I'm looking for is WCS top plane, WCS front, WCS back. It skips over the middle. So on the index, it'll either come around or back up. Depends on what we've set. We're on the back, so we're continuing in the back, and the contour was for the step. So for my next pectoral, which was, let's double check, the 2 on the top. Let's find the next one on the back and make sure that it's the only one selected this time. We'll stay with the 1/4" pectoral to start that hole. Rotating back from the back to the top, to the front. We can leave don't really care about the order at this, I just want to group up the tops. And then there's 2 pectorals on the front, that one should be in the slot and one should be my indexing on the back. So then we're going from the front to the bottom, and then bottom, bottom, bottom. One of those should be a tool change, and then front and front to back. So there's no real advantage until we see it operate. There's not a real advantage to doing the chamfer, doing the drill and tap first. So we're gonna have some odd indexes in there to do those tool changes. All right, so let's go ahead and save this, and we'll finish up with the verify. Keep our fingers crossed that I didn't miss a number somewhere. And thinking about it, good thing I saved because it's thinking about it really hard. Come on, verify, you can do it. Well, it hasn't crashed, but it hasn't given it to me yet. So we may have to pause and all right, caught up to the verify. We have our one operation. I didn't make the selection, so let's go back and make sure everything is selected. And then I left verify open, so the Mastercam simulator comes back. Let's reset. No. Oh, enhancing the model, so enhancing the view. Did it catch up? What didn't I do? Well, I keep closing it and reopening it, but everything is selected, so now I'm just getting button happy. Okay, clicking on the wrong things. All right, so let's get back to the isometric view. Hit the play. All right, so pocket with the 1/2-inch tool, pocket. That one looks a little heavy, so that one's going to need to do some depth cuts. Contours, drills. And so far we haven't run into anything with a holder, so that's good. Ah, the errant 1/4 inch. I missed one. That one's going to collide. All right, so the slot's good, and we do need to verify that. But we're going to go ahead and wrap up with that on our geometry for this lecture and make the corrections offline.